Hey guys, welcome to my channel. In today's video, we are going to discuss about baby sunscreen. So to make this video more precise, I have divided this video into 4 categories. Part 1 is which age group babies require sunscreen, doesn't require sunscreen. Part 2 is if you see the front side of the sunscreen packaging, you can notice SPF, PA++, triple+. So what are those things? Part 3 is types of sunscreen. That is, sunscreen normally have 2 types. Physical sunscreen, which is also called as mineral sunscreen, and chemical sunscreen. So what is the difference between these 2 things and which sunscreen is suitable for the babies? Part 4 is after lots of researchers and discussions with cosmetic formulators, we have come up with the best brand sunscreen for babies. So without any delay, let's get into the video. Part 1. Which age group babies require sunscreen? If your baby's age is between 0 to 6 months, then these group babies doesn't require sunscreen because they have high melanin production on their body, and these melanin production protects the baby's skin from the harmful rays. So if you're taking these group babies outside, you can just wrap them with a normal towel. It's quite sufficient. If your baby's age is between 6 months to 3.5 years, then these category babies require sunscreen of SPF 30 because occasionally we'll be taking these category babies outside, and most probably they'll be inside the house during daytime and they'll go out in the evening to play. So SPF 30 is sufficient. If your kid's age is above 3.5 years, that is, this is the period they start going to the school. So during school times, they'll be inside the building during daytime and very hardly they'll be exposed to the sunlight. For example, if they have some PT periods, they'll be exposed to sunlight from 45 minutes to 1 hour. So if a kid is exposed to a sunlight less than 2 hours, then SPF 30 is sufficient. In case they'll be exposed to sunlight from morning till evening. So these category babies require SPF 50 PA++. Part 2. What is SPF PA+? So before discussing about these things, let's just discuss about the layers of human skin and the types of ultraviolet rays. So if you take human skin, there are totally 3 layers. Epidermis, which is the topmost layer, dermis, which is the middle layer, and hypodermis is the bottom layer. So let's keep this one side. And if you take types of UV rays, there are totally 4 UV rays: ultraviolet A rays, ultraviolet B rays, ultraviolet C, and ultraviolet D. So among these 4 rays, ultraviolet C and D is not important. So we'll discuss about UVA and UVB. So between these 2 things, UVA is quite dangerous comparing to UVB. What happens is ultraviolet A rays penetrates deep inside our skin and it affects till the bottom layer called hypodermis. Whereas ultraviolet B rays, it just affects the topmost layer, epidermis. Now let's come back to what is SPF PA and plus. So SPF, the full form of SPF is sun protection factor, and it protects our skin from ultraviolet B rays. PA, the full form of PA is protection from UVA. So if a packaging has only SPF, it means on applying that sunscreen, it protects our skin from only ultraviolet B rays. If a packaging has both SPF and PA, it means on applying the sunscreen, it protects our skin from both ultraviolet A rays and ultraviolet B rays. So this is the difference between SPF and PA. Now let's discuss about plus. So plus is always present in a package that has PA because plus always denotes the time that it's going to protect us from ultraviolet A rays. So in a package, if you see PA and if you see a plus near to PA, that is single plus. Single plus always denotes that it's going to protect us from UVA rays for 4 hours. So if a package has PA single plus, it means it's going to protect our skin from UVA rays for 4 hours. In case if a package has PA++, it means it's going to protect our skin from UVA rays for 8 hours. So you can calculate according to that. Now let's move on to the part 3, that is physical sunscreen and chemical sunscreen. Normally physical sunscreen is also known as mineral sunscreen. And the second type is chemical sunscreen. So I'll tell you with an example. This is your skin. On applying a physical sunscreen, the physical sunscreen acts like a barrier. In case you're applying a physical sunscreen and you're stepping out, so the ultraviolet rays from sunlight comes and affects your skin. What happens is this physical sunscreen acts like a barrier and it will reflect back the ultraviolet rays. On the other hand, what happens if you apply a chemical sunscreen? That is, this is your skin and you're applying a chemical sunscreen, but chemical sunscreen doesn't act like a barrier. What happens is it will absorb the ultraviolet rays from the sunlight and it will filter the harmful substances, and the end result is it takes only the good part. Now let's see the difference between a physical sunscreen and a chemical sunscreen. Point number 1. Physical sunscreen are always expensive comparing to the chemical sunscreen because of the ingredients called zinc oxide and titanium dioxide. Generally, zinc oxide as an ingredient is quite expensive, so overall the price of physical sunscreen increases. Point 2. Physical sunscreen always gives you a white cast, whereas chemical sunscreen doesn't give you any kind of white cast. But personally, I always prefer sunscreen that gives white cast, because physical sunscreens are quite expensive and you're purchasing expensive one, you're applying it on your face. So there are possibilities of missing it out. But when there is a white cast, you can easily find which part of the face is left out. But this white cast is not at all a problem, because hardly within 10 to 15 minutes, it just vanishes. Point 3. Let's talk about the ingredient. Physical sunscreen has two beautiful ingredients, that is titanium dioxide and zinc oxide. So applying a sunscreen that has these two ingredients for a longer period of time definitely gives the benefit for your skin. Now let's talk about a chemical sunscreen ingredients. Normally a chemical sunscreen has oxybenzone, octocrylene, avobenzone, homosalate. So these ingredients are quite common in chemical sunscreen, and among these, okay, let's just keep it aside. So there have been research papers submitted that a sunscreen, a chemical sunscreen that has oxybenzone as an ingredient, when it's applied to a girl baby for a longer period, it just triggers the hormone level of the baby and make them to attain their puberty at the early stage. So always, if you're going for a chemical sunscreen, try avoiding this ingredient called oxybenzone. So overall, if you ask me which sunscreen is better, I always recommend you to go for a physical sunscreen, because a physical sunscreen has those two beautiful ingredients and it gives you lots of benefit for the skin. If you have no restrictions in price point of view, you can go for a physical sunscreen. In case if you're going for a chemical sunscreen, then always make sure that particular sunscreen doesn't have oxybenzone as an ingredient. Part 4. Now let's move on to the best sunscreens for babies. I have recommended a few sunscreen from physical sunscreen as well, chemical sunscreen as well. Now let's just see it. Thank you for watching this video. Hope this video is very helpful for you. We'll meet you soon in my next video. Thank you. Bye.